let's rank the first round rookies for Dynasty Fantasy Football. And this is a super flex tight end premium, but obviously if you're not in a tight end premium league, I will edit my rankings accordingly as we go through it. I have a couple of honorable mentions. These guys are going to go outside of the first round, but these are some of the guys I will be targeting in the early second, mid second, maybe even early third with one of these guys, and that's Emmett Johnson. And the reason Emmett Johnson is going to plummet so far is because he's not going to get an RB1 workload unless K9 gets injured, and K9's been pretty durable, I feel like, throughout his career. But this is just pure talent. Emmett Johnson was my RB3 coming out of this draft class, ahead of Jonah Coleman, ahead of Mike Washington, ahead of Nick Singleton, ahead of Katron Allen. He is a dog. He was productive at Nebraska for back-to-back seasons. He had a stretch of games this year. It was like they were just leaning on him. After Dylan Raiola went out, they were just leaning on him, and he was producing. He went off against Iowa, was one of the better defenses in the country last year. He went off against Penn State, who had a few NFL guys on their defense last year. He is just a dog, an absolute bowling ball. And I do think there will be a little bit of a committee workload here, and he's way more explosive than Isaiah Pacheco or Kareem Hunt. Their offensive line in Kansas City, when it's healthy, is pretty solid. It's just Pacheco and Kareem Hunt were garbage. They could not. They both averaged less than 4 yards a carry last year, and the lack of a run game made their offense predictable, which led to Patrick Mahomes having a down year. But really, it was just Travis Kelce dropped a bunch of passes and it turned into interceptions. That's really like Texans game, Eagles game, Chargers game, drop passes. That's all it was. I think this offense is still going to be highly prolific for years to come, and you want to get running backs that are on good offenses, and you're going to get that in Emmett Johnson. And I think he's going to be efficient with his touches. He's impossible to tackle in the open field. He's a thumper. He can run through you. He can go around you. He lacks, like, the reason his ceiling is capped is because he lacks home run hitting speed. And he's a more than formidable pass catcher, but he's not going to be an elite pass catching weapon. Although I don't know if K9's not necessarily an efficient pass catcher either. So we'll see what type of role Emmett Johnson carves out in this offense. But when he gets the ball in his hands, he's impossible to bring down. I think he could be a calm 4.5, 5 yards a carry, but I don't think you're going to get much upside out of him year one right away. But I love Emmett Johnson. And Chris Brazzell is a guy I would take maybe even late first, really early second. I prefer him to Denzel Boston, but in a lot of dynasty rookie drafts, Boston is going almost like a half round ahead of Chris Brazzell. I think he's a more fluid route runner. He's bigger. He doesn't have as good of hands as Denzel Boston, obviously. Boston had like a 1% drop rate in college, but his catch radius is just as big, and he does have really good hands. He can make some spectacular catches in his own right, but he's faster in a straight line. He's faster laterally, and you'd think like Denzel Boston, really nice red zone receiver. He had a gazillion touchdowns, but a lot of it was like rub routes and schemed open quick slants. Like, he's not like a fade jump ball guy in the red zone the way the numbers will tell you. Now, he can do that. I'm not saying he can't do that, but it's a lot of schemed open stuff on Denzel Boston's tape, which is fair. And he doesn't give you a whole lot after the catch. He did return punts, but it wasn't like an elite yak guy. I prefer Brazzell to Boston, even though Boston's going to go above Brazzell. So I think you could see he's a good honorable mention, like the mid-second, late second. But number 12, I have Jonah Coleman. He should go in the first round. Great pass catching upside, but is in a pretty loaded RB room now in Denver. But I think he can carve out an RB1 workload because J.K. Dobbins, unfortunately, is made of glass. But when he is on the field, he is electric. We saw it in L.A. We saw it in a limited stint last year with Denver before the injury. Then RJ Harvey was productive from a fantasy perspective, but wasn't really efficient from a pure offensive standpoint. So I think Jonah Coleman, who has great pass catching upside, is a bowling ball. I mean, guys tacklers just roll off him, was extremely productive. 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons, 1,100 yards as a sophomore in the Pac-12 with Arizona. He is incredibly productive in college. He has the potential in the passing game to be a 15-touch guy, a 20-touch guy, and he has carried that workload for 3 straight seasons at the collegiate level. So Jonah Coleman's a guy I like a lot. It's just RJ Harvey, J.K. Dobbins, and him. Where does he fit into that mesh? Like, I don't know if we'll see a lot of year one production, but maybe halfway through the year, he can carve out a workload if he's really efficient with his touches, which I think he will be over RJ Harvey, who wasn't that efficient, and J.K. Dobbins. I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to get injured, but he probably will get injured. So I have Jonah Coleman at 12. At 11, give me Omar Cooper Jr., and this is for Superflex. I want that on the record, and for Tight End Premium, excuse me, not Tight End Premium. Here's what I'll do. 11, I have Omar Cooper. 10, I have Stowers. 9, I have Kenyon Sadiq. If this is not Tight End Premium, I have Omar Cooper Jr. at 9, Sadiq at 10, Stowers at 11. So in Tight End Premium, take Sadiq and Stowers over Omar Cooper Jr. Jr. If it's normal PPR scoring for your tight ends, take Cooper Jr. over those two guys. Elite route runner, man. I mean, I am a Jets, if you can tell by so I am bullish on Omar Cooper Jr. for sure. But all of a sudden, and this goes with Kenyon Sadiq too. All of a sudden, there's a lot of mouths to feed in this Jets patch. Garrett Wilson's going to get his targets. He's going to get his targets. Kenyon Sadiq's going to get his targets. Omar Cooper Jr. is going to get his targets. Breece Hall is going to get his targets out of the backfield. He's been one of the most productive pass catching running backs in the NFL. And does Geno have the ability to produce, for a plethora of guys for a fantasy football perspective in an offense that, quite frankly, we don't know what it's going to be with Frank Reich. Now, I think he has enough to produce for at least two guys, because that's what he did, and a little bit of a stint in 2024 with JSN and DK in Seattle. Both those guys had top 25 wide receiver finishes, but is Omar Cooper Jr. number one as good as DK is right away? Probably not. I think Garrett will be fine. I think Garrett's going to have one of the best years of his career because Geno Smith's the second best quarterback. But then where does that leave you with Kenyon Sadiq and Omar Cooper Jr. this year? I think Omar could find himself at like a flex low-end receiver too if all things go accordingly. The Jets are going to be losing a lot of games, so Geno Smith's going to be passing the ball a lot. I think the offensive line in New York is better than a lot of people are giving it credit for. But in the reality of the situation is you got to take the tight ends that are ridiculous athletes with elite upside in tight end premium over a guy in Omar Cooper Jr., who's going to be the wide receiver too on a team that, quite frankly, sucks. Like the Jets suck. I'm a Jet. They suck. And how is the target share going to work out between him, Garrett, Sadiq? We're not done with Mason Taylor. I don't think the Jets are just done with Mason Taylor. There's a lot of 13 personnel going on in the league right now. And Mason Taylor and Kenyon Sadiq. And Sadiq's basically a glorified slot receiver. So tight end premium, I have Cooper Jr. at 11, Eli Stowers at 10, Kenyon Sadiq at 9. And I want to flip Stowers and Sadiq. I really do, but I don't have the balls to do it because I do think the path to productivity is going to be a little bit harder for Stowers right away than it is for Kenyon Sadiq. But I like Eli. Eli Stowers is my tight end one over Sadiq. In his first, in Eli Stowers was a better tight end prospect than Kenyon Sadiq. With all due respect to Sadiq's RAS score, which was the highest in combine history, that it's a relative athletic score, Eli Stowers in his first year at the position was more productive than Kenyon Sadiq was at any year of his career at the tight end position. And even though Sadiq had a 9.58 RAS score, which was the highest ever, set combine records, Eli Stowers had an RAS score of 9.45. Broke the record for broad jump, broke the record for vertical jump, ran a 4.51, which was in the 98th percentile of all tight ends in the 40-yard dash. So Eli Stowers is not just as much, but almost as much of a freak as Kenyon Sadiq is, and he was more productive in his first year at the position than Kenyon Sadiq was ever. And Sadiq, where was he? Where was he? Against Texas Tech, even though they beat Texas Tech. Where was he against Indiana? Eli Stowers was more productive. I think he has better hands. I think he's a better route runner. He has a better feel for the soft spots in the zone, in zone coverage. He has better feel for leverage with DBs. And although Sadiq is going to be a matchup nightmare with linebackers and safeties because of his size and speed, and even some corners because he's faster than some corners, he broke the combine record. I think Stowers is a more polished prospect right now. However, Sadiq's path to production is way faster than Stowers is. So here's what I would take Sadiq first and then sell him high this year and then go buy Eli Stowers low. If he has a couple of mid games, see what the snap share is with Stowers compared to Dallas Goedert, and Goedert is only on a 1-year deal. So I don't know if Stowers will have an impact right away, but Goddard's going to be done in a year, and somebody's going to have to pick up that slack in Philadelphia, and I think it's going to be Eli Stowers, and I trust Howie Roseman to pick good players. Like I do. But I have Sadiq over not. Sadiq's ceiling is just so much higher. And then at number 8 and number 7, and honestly, you could argue 6. Like there's a little bit of a debate here between Casey Concepcion, Jadarian Price, and Mekhi Lemon. The way I have it ranked is Lemon at 6, Concepcion at 7, Jadarian Price at 8. And I feel like I could be underrating Price a little bit, especially because there's not a lot of competition in his backfield. But I think it's so close between these three. Receivers are more valuable in Dynasty than running backs are because their careers last longer. So I went with the receivers over the RB, who I don't know what his passing game upside is. It could be there. He very well could be a good pass catcher. It's just Jeremiyah Love was better. But there's not a lot of competition in his backfield. Zach Charbonnet off of a ACL injury. And Jadarian Price is a dog. I mean, he's 6 yards a carry back-to-back years. He ran high 4.4, low 4.5, so home run hitting ability is a little bit questionable. He hit the home run a lot at Notre Dame. Great vision, great jukes. He's a dog. He's the whole package, and he's in a spot where there's not a lot of competition for carries. I think he is a little bit of a question mark in terms of ceiling because we don't know what he can do as a pass catching guy. But I like Jadarian Price at 8, and then Casey Concepcion at 7. I think he got sold a Biletnikoff by Marcel Reed. Quite frankly, he was getting open. And Reed would airmail, Reed would underthrow. He'd have to come back and make a play on the ball where if it hit him in stride, he's taking it to the house because he's one of the best yak guys in the country. He returned 30. He had 30 punt returns in his college career. He took 2 of them back to the house. He was nasty returning punts. He's nasty after the catch. And if you've listened to this, I've talked about it before, but he has one of the grossest reps I've seen against Mansour Delane in this draft process, where he juked him out of his shoes to get open. He caught the ball, then he made him touch grass again. Mansour Delane went 7 overall to the Chiefs. He's the best corner in the draft. Concepcion is a dog, 15 yards a catch on 919 yards. But he wasn't the only receiver in that room. Like, it was a loaded room with Mario Craver and Bethel Roman. Wide receivers last longer than RBs do. I love Concepcion a lot as a player. I think he'll fit right into that Zay Flowers role in the Todd Monken offense, but even better after the catch than Zay Flowers is. I like Casey Concepcion a whole lot. Very high on him. Take him 7 over Jadarian Price and over the tight ends in tight end premium. And then number 6 is just Makai Lemon. I mean, the most productive season out of like the top 3 wide receiver prospects between Tyson, Tate, and him. He's the most productive, but he struggled to break the press coverage against Leonard Moore, who's an outside corner, but came into play the slot when he was on Makai Lemon, and he struggled to break the press. This new offensive coordinator in Philly comes from Green Bay, and they do scheme their guys a lot of free releases, so that's going to be huge for Makai, so I do like that for his stock in terms of a dynasty standpoint, but if he can get a free release off the line of scrimmage, the rest is cake because that's the only weakness in his game. And who's to say he can't develop better release packages off the line of scrimmage? He has the twitchiness. He's a good athlete. He's good in open space. He has great feel for leverage. He can find the soft spots. He gets eyes back to the quarterback to be a QB friendly move, chain your possession guy, but he also has the ability to be a contested catch guy down the field for his size. He has incredible ball skills, and he's nasty after the catch. Makai Lemon's a dog, and the fact that Howie Roseman took him, traded up to take him, tells you everything you need to know about how these NFL GMs felt about Makai Lemon, and that is Howie Roseman thought he's good. Like I said regarding Eli Stowers, I trust guys that Howie Roseman drafts. It's just there's way more question marks with him than there is with Tyson. Maybe not with Tyson because of the injuries, but I love Jordan Tyson. We'll get to him momentarily. But Jalen Hurts, there's a question mark there with Jalen Hurts a little bit. Remains to be seen. I also do think that the Eagles' our offensive line has regressed way more than a lot of people want to admit. Dickerson was banged up all last year. Cam Jurgens is not very good. Lane Johnson is getting older. And they did draft a tackle to probably be Lane Johnson's replacement, but their O-line regressed significantly last year, and it does not get talked about enough. Jalen Hurts got sacked more than he ever got sacked in his entire career. Saquon Barkley was way less efficient running the football. Their run game was not as dominant as it was the year they won the Super Bowl. A lot of that has to do with their offensive line, which was banged up for a good portion of the year, but it is worth noting. But I have Makai Lemon at 6. Number 5, I have Ty Simpson, and this is super flex. So this is like you get 2 QBs. I think Ty Simpson's arm talent's a little bit underrated. I think it's Zach Wilson-esque where he put the ball in harm's way a lot. It just wouldn't get turned over because it's not NFL DBs, where if it was NFL DBs, those interception numbers would be high. The TD interception ratio would not be as good as it was with some of the throws Ty Simpson would make. He thinks he has the arm of Brett Favre or Josh Allen when really he's closer to Tua Tagovailoa, but he's not Tua Tagovailoa. He has really good accuracy, really good arm angles. The arm strength is a little bit less to be desired. I think he's a Zach Wilson comp coming out, but a little worse arm, a little better competition, and the situation Ty Simpson is in is really what's selling me here at number 5 in a super flex 2 QB type of league where Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay sit for a year, learn. You know the offense is going to be good as long as he can be accurate with the football, and that's enough for me. I think he's underrated mobility. The size is like he's not big, but I think Ty Simpson at 5 years simply because of the situation he's going into. You could argue this is the greatest situation a player has ever been drafted into. You could really make that argument. Puka Nacua, one of the best receivers in the NFL. Devontae Adams, although he won't be there next year. And then one of the best O-lines in the league, Sean McVay, sit behind the MVP and learn for a year. I think it's perfect for Simpson, so I like that a lot. And then at number 4, Fernando Mendoza. In a super flex league, there is some debate, Tyson, Tate, Mendoza. And here's my thought process on Mendoza. It depends on how your team is constructed. If you desperately need a quarterback and you're picking in the top 3, your team is probably buns to begin with. And I'd rather you're not going to, if you're picking the top 3, the odds of you turning this thing around in 1 year are very slim to none. So I would rather, if you have a first round pick next year, take a guy like Tate or Tyson, who I think is a sure thing going to be a starting wide receiver 1 or 2 in your roster for the next 8 years, barring some type of injury or some type of unforeseen circumstance. That's how strongly I feel on those 2 guys. Take those guys, lock that position in. You're going to be bad next year if you're picking in the top 4. Like, quite frankly, you're not going to be that great next year. I'd rather take a swing on one of the QB 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 next year than the wide receiver 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 next year. Because after Jeremiah Smith, you don't know who the next guy is. Cam Coleman, Mario Craver, Ryan Williams resurgence, Ryan Wingo. Like, you don't know. But next year, it's like Arch, Sayin, Levitt, Marcel Reed, Dante Moore. Like, there's so many quarterbacks next year. And Mendoza's upside is limited. Like, I think his ceiling, if he can work on his pocket presence, which is the biggest weakness of his game, is Joe Burrow. I think he can be a pocket presence, pocket passing, assassin, like Jared Goff type of guy who is very productive in fantasy, but that rushing upside is limited. He's in not the greatest situation. Like, that offensive line is better, still needs work. He has good weapons in Brock and Ashton Genty, but on the outside, it's Trey Tucker, Jalen Naylor. Like, they still are pieces away. Their defense still isn't that good, albeit it's way better. I'm not that high on Mendoza from a fantasy standpoint, especially when you look at the QB class next year compared to the wide receiver class next year, which is going to be a good receiver class. It's just, are you going to get a guy like Tyson or Tate after Jeremiah Smith's off the board next year? And Jeremiah Smith will probably be the 101. I don't know if you will, but I do know you can get a tighter Tyson this year and then get the QB 2, 3, or 4. Like, the year I'm in Dynasty League, Jaden Daniels and Drake May went like 5 and 6 that year. Like, Neighbors went, Bowers went, and Marvin Harrison Jr. went, all before Drake May or Jaden Daniels did. And this next year's quarterback class is looking like, at least right now, it could very well be very similar to that 2024 QB class. So for those reasons, I would take Tate or Tyson over those guys. And it's really just Jordan Tyson or Carnell Tate's the really, really, like, that's the debate, right? I lean Tyson. I think Tyson is the most talented receiver in the past 2 drafts. So not just this year, but last year. Yards after catch, ball skills, route running. He's got everything. He's everything. Body control when the ball is in the air. Big playability. He had a game-tying touchdown against TCU. He had the huge pass interference against number 7 ranked Texas Tech when Arizona State beat Texas Tech last year in conference play. He was nasty. He's a big-time player. He had 1,100 yards his sophomore year as well. 10 for 105 against Texas Tech. 8 for 126 and 2 tutties against TCU. Big game player. The only concern is he missed 1 out of every 3 college games. Like, that is very concerning. But I also do think the Saints offense is going to be better right now than the Titans offense is. The Titans offensive line is still a work in progress. The Saints offensive line looks solid. Kelvin Banks, Cesar Ruiz, Felice Fuaga. They signed the guard from Buffalo as well. Their offensive line is going to be solid. Olave, they got another weapon in ETN in their backfield, and then you bring in Jordan Tyson, who I think could outproduce Chris Olave as soon as next year. I take Tyson at 2. I take Tate at 3. Tate is probably the safer option, but have some balls, and take the ceiling play in Tyson. And then number 1 is easily Jeremiyah Love. I think Jeremiyah Love at 20 years old might be one of the greatest running back prospects we've seen because of the lack of tread on the tires. Like, you think of some of these other elite guys, Ashton Genty, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, where Jeremiyah Love compares in terms of tread on tires is nowhere near these other guys. Like, Genty had 830 touches. Jeremiyah Love had 496 touches his college career. Saquon had 773 touches. CMC had 731 touches. Bijan had 600 touches. Fournette had 657. Even going back to Ezekiel Elliott, Melvin Gordon, all over 600 touches. Jeremiyah Love had less than 500 touches. He could run through your face. He could run around you. He could beat you to the edge. He could jump over you. He can do it all. He can be a good goal line presence. He had 20 touchdowns. He had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, 9.5 yards a catch, almost 7 yards a carry. He might be one of the best dynasty running back prospects we have seen ever. I mean, ever. 20 years old. Not a lot of tread on the tires. Best football ahead of him. I love Jeremiyah Love. And I do think the Cardinals are also in a position where if they get a quarterback, their offense is going to be rolling. Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson was incredible down the stretch. Trey McBride, one of the best pass-catching tight ends in the sport. Now you have Jeremiyah Love. That's one of the best groups of weapons in the NFL, especially if Marvin Harrison Jr. can take just a little bit more of a step and be that elite prospect we thought he could be. So, and you want running backs on good teams and good offenses because that means touchdowns, and Jeremiyah Love is a dog if they can get the right quarterback in there in Arizona. Look out, and I think they will because next year, the 2027 class is loaded. They're going to get a guy, and if they get the guy and the offense is good, Jeremiyah Love is going to be a 15 touchdown, 1,500 scrimmage yard guy for 4 or 5 straight seasons with the least amount of tread on his tires than like almost every single top 10 running back over the past 10 years. So Jeremiyah Love, number one. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for fantasy football stuff all year long. I love you guys, man. If you made this far, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button.